What up? It's your brother Aaron. And if you're listening to this podcast right now, it is my guess, it is my hope that you want to do it big in life. Like you want to do it big, mucho grande big. You're tired of playing it small. You're tired of settling. You know there's something on the inside of you that you are destined for, that you know you're supposed to bring out, but you keep taking this one drug. You keep taking hits of this thing every single day, and it is sabotaging your dreams, and it is tearing you apart. It's killing you. And the drug I'm talking about that's been on these streets since the 80s is comparison. You keep taking hits of comparison on social media, in your group chats, with your friends, with your family, and people you don't even know. You just taking hits like, give me that, give me that, give me that. But what if I were to tell you that I recently watched a Super Bowl halftime show performed by someone you may or may not know, but his name is Kendrick Lamar. And he put on one of the greatest living pieces of art I've ever seen in my life. But after I watched it once, twice, 3 times, 10 times, I came to a conclusion that I did not notice the first time. And this is where you come in. I didn't watch someone put on a great show. I didn't watch someone put on an amazing, amazing performance with all these messages and things that further culture forward. What I watched for 15 minutes was someone that was so certain, so confident in his ability and his messaging that there was no intention on doing things how they were done before. He was going to do it his way, and his way was the best way. So how can you have the confidence of a Kendrick Lamar and stop comparing yourself to your counterparts and other people and just truly be yourself without the worry about what everyone else thinks? Well, that's what we're going to dive into coming up next on Done Not Perfect. Welcome to Done Not Perfect. And if you're a first-time listener into Club 51, right? Club 51. What's Club 51? Club 51 is 51% is the only amount of confidence you need, right? Most people wait until they're 100% certain. I got to know everything. You just got to be 1% over halfway. So if you can give yourself 51% confidence, trust, action, God is going to come in and do the rest of the 49% for you. So this is Club 51. So if this is your first time listening, welcome to the club. We're happy to have you. But make sure before you leave the club, you like, you subscribe, and you rate, and you review, and you share, because this is invite only. So the only way people can know about this club is if you let them know about this club. Okay? So today we're talking about something that I really do believe is going to be a game changer for you if you really pay attention to what's going to be said. Because I'm not just going to talk about things from a macro level. I'm really going to give you some actionable steps for you to break free from the comparison trap. But I'm going to tie in Kendrick Lamar's Super Bowl halftime show. And if you haven't seen it, you have to see it. Okay? I'm not going to run through the set list. I'm not going to talk about all the hidden messages and things you might have missed. There are plenty of YouTubers that have done that. What I'm going to talk about is what I saw with my own eyes from a place of looking at an artist who was 100% confident in their ability, and they are not worried about what anybody else thinks. And a part of living a big life is you have to let go of trying to please everyone. Okay, we're 4 minutes in and we're already going there. You have got to stop paying attention to what everyone else thinks and feels and stop being a people pleaser. I know that's a big thing. I know it's huge, but it's true. When I watched him perform, I was looking at someone. Now, this is like after, so the first time I'm watching it like everyone. What is he going to do? What song is he going to play? Is he going to do the song? Is he going to do the song? Is he going to play that song? Is he going to play that song? Right? So I'm watching like everyone else. But when I watched it again on YouTube the second time, the third time, and all these different clips that are being shared to me, did you see this? Did you see that? The main thing that I took from it was this brother is certain. He is certain on his message. He is certain on his talent, and he is certain on who he's for. But here's the kicker. When you're certain on who you're for, that means you're also certain on who you're not for. And when you're comparing yourself to people, comparison is always going to come from a place of lack. And I can attest to this. When you are comparing, when I'm comparing myself to someone else, there's a part of me that feels insecure about where I'm at, what I have, or what I don't have. So comparison is a place of lack. So already off the rip, we are starting the game losing because we are born from a place of abundance. So if we're only going to focus on what we don't have, that means we are also at the same time overlooking all the things that we do have. And so when I'm watching Kendrick perform, I'm watching someone only focus on the things that they do well. And he does a lot well. But he's not trying to give you the performance that you think he should do because of all the hits he has and the music that you like. He's going to give you the performance that he wants to give you, right? So I'm not, since we're talking about comparison, I'm not going to compare, Usher's Super Bowl halftime show, Beyonce's, Lady Gaga, Prince's. Like, I'm not going to compare them, Bruno Mars again, Beyonce again. Like, I'm not going to compare in terms of whose show is better, okay? But what I will say is that all those artists are spectacular, like upper echelon, all-time Mount Rushmore type talent. But the one thing that I saw with Kendrick that I didn't see from a Beyonce or an Usher or a Bruno Mars or Lady Gaga or et cetera, input artists there, was not only did he play quote unquote hits, but he also played like deep cuts, like albums, like songs on the album that wasn't commercial, wasn't radio. And he played those. And he didn't play hits necessarily from his past albums. He focused mainly on his newest album, which is very, very rare. Because usually when a performer is performing at the halftime show, it's the greatest hits. We're playing 15 minutes of straight bangers, right? And the performances are great. But the difference between Kendrick's and everyone else is in the moment, it felt like this is something that's going to live on for a while. And here's what I mean. At the time of this recording, his halftime show has 77 million views on YouTube, and it's been less than 10 days. Okay? So we are less than 2 weeks from the performance at the time of this recording, and he has almost 80 million. By the time you hear this episode, it's probably going to be close to 90 million views. Usher's, at the time of this recording, has like 32 million. Okay? So in less than 2 weeks, Kendrick's views on YouTube is more than doubled Usher's views from last year's Super Bowl. Now, is Kendrick Lamar a more popular artist? Maybe now. Maybe. But we're talking about Usher, U-S-H-E-R, right? Usher, one of the biggest artists of all time. He gave us arguably the biggest and best R&B album of my generation with Confessions, right? He's got hit after hit after hit. He's got special guests and appearances and roller skates and people flying everywhere and marching bands and a spectacle. It's in Vegas, right? It's a huge event. And Kendrick has him and SZA and some background dancers. No fireworks, no real glitz and glamour. Now, it was spectacularly laid out. It was a phenomenal show, but in the grand scheme of things, it was kind of simple. So how can a show that has less do so much more? And I believe it's because his mindset was, I don't care what anyone else did before me. I don't care about all of that. I'm going to give you something that I believe is going to withstand the test of time. But in order for me to do that, I got to do it my way. Because if I give you the performance that you want me to give you, it ain't going to work. I got to be me. And how many times do you and I look at what everyone else has done, what everyone else is doing, and looking at the people that's in your genre, in your line of work, in your career, and you looking at how many views they got, how much money they making, are they married? What kind of car are they driving? Where they going on vacation? How many times are we looking at, are they getting promoted? What they LinkedIn looking like? Oh, dang, like they losing weight, they're getting in better shape. You comparing yourself to that. How many times do we look to the left and to the right, and it takes us away from looking straight ahead? And when I watched his performance, the main thing I got from that was, if you are certain about who you are and you know how special and unique you are, the only direction you need to look is forward. Because in that mindset, that framing, you know that there's going to be people that aren't going to agree with you. They're not going to like you. They're not going to listen to you. They're not going to buy from you. They're not going to do any of that. But guess what? That means there's going to be a lot of people that will. And I'm only going to create, produce, do things for the people that mess with me. I'm not worried about everything else. I'm not worried about what works for this person. I'm not worried about what that person did. I can learn for sure, but there's only one me, and there's only one you. So if you're listening to this right now and you're like, wow, I didn't realize that I was so much like Kendrick Lamar, you are. Because when you own it, when you own just how unique and special you are, everything changes. The game opens up now because you're not worried about pleasing everyone. The only thing you're worried about is staying true to you. And when you're honest, and when you're transparent, and when you're authentic and you're real, and you're letting people in and showing your scars, this is how you build a following. This is how you build loyalty. This is how you build a brand. This is how you build community. And when I watched Kendrick Lamar's performance, I was watching him build community in real time. If Usher got 30 million views at the time of this recording over a year, and Kendrick Lamar has almost 80 million in less than 2 weeks, what that's telling me is it's resonating with more people. People are sharing it. People are saying, you got to watch this. He's created disciples. Lord knows I'm one. I didn't share that thing so many times because he connected with me in a way where it provoked a feeling that I need someone else to experience what I'm feeling right now. And when you're comparing yourself to somebody, when you're worried about what everyone else is doing, when you're trying to be like everyone else, you cut that off. You lose the authenticity. You lose the rawness, the realness. You lose the message because your performance or your writing or your speaking or your doing or your parenting or your teaching or your coaching or your dancing, your business feels like and sounds like everyone else. But when you watch Kendrick perform, you're like, I've only seen this one time and one time only, and I'm never going to see anything like this ever again. So when it comes to you and me, comparing yourself to other people does us no good. We know that. But the main reason why it does us no good is because it robs you of your uniqueness. There's no one going to be like you yesterday, today, or forevermore. You are a one of one. But the moment you look left and the moment you look right, you start to become like everyone else and you lose your special sauce. My hope at the end of this episode is that something on the inside of you changes a little bit and you start to feel like, okay, yeah, maybe I have been looking to the left and to the right a little bit. Maybe I do need to start looking straight ahead. Maybe I do need to start asking myself the hard questions. And I'm going to give you some questions to ask yourself. And I'm going to give you some actionable steps that you can do right now to start to break free from the comparison trap. You got to stop, listen, you got to stop shooting up comparison. Like, you got to stop taking these comparison pills. You ODing on it. We got to stop it. And I can say that because I've done it. I know what it's like. Like when I was in high school, right? I'll give you two examples. When I was in high school and I first started really taking basketball seriously, this is like freshman year in high school. I grew up playing baseball. Okay. I was a baseball player. I played t-ball, did the whole thing. And I was very, very good. Like, ask about me. Ask about me. Ask about me. Like, ask about me. Okay. And I was so good that I was always playing 1 or 2 years ahead of my own age demographic. So when I was 8, I was playing with 10-year-olds. 10, I was playing with 12. By the time I was 12 years old, I had teammates that can drive. Like, I was really playing at a high level. The problem was with baseball, I was naturally good at it, but I was really bored watching it. Basketball was the sport that really had my heart and interest. I just loved basketball. I loved playing it and I loved watching it. And once around 7th, 8th grade, I started to make the shift from baseball to basketball. The problem was I was always a naturally great athlete, but I had to work really hard at developing basketball skills. So my freshman year, I went to a private high school called Brother Rice, and I came in on the freshman team. Now, there was 2 guys, shout out to Anthony, shout out to Brandon, that we all played summer league together. So at Brother Rice, during the summer, we would have open gyms and like preseason conditioning and things like that. And there was 3 freshmen that came in together. It was myself, Anthony, and Brandon, 2 of my good friends to this day. They were practicing with the varsity. They were working out with the varsity. I was working out with the freshmen. Now, here I am at 14 years old, and I'm watching 2 of my peers that we're going to be taking the same classes with. They're practicing and training with the varsity, and I'm practicing and training with the freshmen. And so that was the very first moment that I can remember that comparing myself started. And also, because I never really played organized basketball, it was very, very difficult for me early on to learn plays. Like, I can play basketball, you roll the ball out and hoop, I can hoop. But the game of basketball really, I struggled with that. So my freshman year, initially on freshman, I didn't start. I came off the bench because 1, I didn't know the plays well. And 2, I was really in my head a lot because I wasn't fully comfortable. I wasn't as natural in basketball as I was in baseball. And so as I continued to get better, I got moved up the varsity in freshman year, started at point guard my sophomore year. It was at that moment when I ended my freshman year, there was a write-up in the paper that I was a top 10 freshman to watch in the state of Michigan. So I came in my sophomore year, like being looked at as one of the best young players in the state of Michigan. At that time, there was a magazine called Prep Spotlight. And Prep Spotlight was a local magazine that highlighted the state of Michigan, but also highlighted the All-Americans across the country. But in the magazine, it would rank who were the top 10 point guards, top 10 shooting guards, small forwards, power forwards, centers for each class. So when you get the magazine, you see where you're perceived as your ranking. And so at that point, you want to be at the top of the list. So I'm playing, always thinking about, Andre Ricks or Eric Devendorf or Chris Douglas Roberts, right? I'm looking at, I still remember these guys, and shout out. And I'm listening and I'm watching and I'm just like, oh man, they had 20 today. So you're looking at the Free Press, you're looking at Detroit News, looking at the Oakland Press, and you're looking at how many points they scored, did they win, how many rebounds, how many assists. And so you come into your games thinking about everyone else's games, right? You're looking to the left and to the right, and you're not looking straight ahead. And so I lived my basketball career comparing myself to everyone else because, one, I was always an underdog because I didn't play AAU and travel. Two, I had 3 knee surgeries before the age of 21. So I was always in my head and comparing myself to where I was based on where I thought I should and where I actually was. And I really do believe it ruined my basketball career. Besides injury, I was always in my head thinking about stuff, right? The second thing I will say, and I'll keep this one shorter, was when everything blew up for me on social media. When my TikTok exploded 5 years ago, I didn't try for that to happen. It just happened. But as it's happening and I'm getting 100,000 followers, 200,000, 400, 500, 600, 700, 800, 900,000, I'm like, what do I do with this? So I start looking at everyone else's content. I start looking at how people are doing this and how people are doing that. And I'm looking at videos like, this is how you go viral. This is how, and so I'm like consuming so much information that it took me out of the mindset like, my originality, my authenticity was what took it off in the first place. So why change it? And so I say all this to say, I don't know where you are in your journey. I don't know why you're comparing yourself. I don't know what it is that you do, but I understand. I understand what it's like and why it's so easy to compare yourself because there's a part of you that feels insecure about where you are and unsure if you have the ability to do what your heart desires. Maybe it's because you didn't see it in your family. Maybe you don't have the guidance. Maybe you don't have the information, or maybe you're afraid of succeeding. I don't know what it is for you, but you are comparing your chapter that you're at right now to someone else's chapter 10 chapters down the road. And it's stopping you from making progress because you feel like you don't have enough time. You don't have the resources. You don't have the ability. You don't have the network. You don't have the net worth. You don't have the connections. You don't have it all. And so you end up not doing anything. And so my hope now is that it ends today. This is the last day. After this episode ends in a few minutes, it stops. Like we're done. We're done. We're going to rehab, right? We are going sober from comparison, right? I haven't had a drink since December 31st, 2023. I am sober from alcohol. And I can tell you it's one of the best decisions I've ever made. Now, I wasn't an alcoholic by any means, right? But I was having margaritas, like I was drinking, I was having mimosas, and I can tell you completely getting rid of that has changed everything for me mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, all of it, because I'm no longer relying on something to get me through. And so if you're comparing yourself every single day, if right now you make a hard stop and make a decision that you're no longer going to live your life comparing yourself to anyone else, everything in your life opens up. Okay. Now I'm going to give you 3 things that you can start doing right now to ensure that that happens. Now, are the thoughts going to go away instantly? No. Are the comparison trap thoughts, symptoms going to go away instantly. No, right? Like when someone goes to rehab, like just because you're in rehab and just because you're a recovering alcoholic, it doesn't mean that the craving of alcohol goes away. It just means you have the skills, you got the information, you have the community to help overcome that. It becomes easier to overcome the urge. So the urge of comparison is still going to be there, but you're going to have the tactics, the tools, and the skill sets to continue to whip his ass. All right. So here's the first thing I'm going to do. And this is more of like a bigger picture thing. And I'm going to give you two legitimate things that you can do. The first thing you have to do is you got to make a decision to stop. You got to make a decision to stop. So you can't just say, all right, I'm going to try. All right, starting tomorrow, you know what? I think I'm going to think about it. No, it's got to be a hard stop. You have to decide, not choose. You got to kill it off. When I stopped drinking alcohol, it wasn't let's see how it goes. No, it was a hard stop. I'm done. And initially it was hard. I'm around it, going to dinners. I've been to like 5 weddings in the last year and a half. But I made a decision. And one of the reasons why it's hard for confidence to form, it's hard for consistency to build in your life, is because every time you say you're going to do something, you backtrack. And so there's a part of you that doesn't even believe you when you say it. So when it comes to stopping the comparison, the number one thing you have to do is you have to make a decision to stop, like it ends today. Now, after you make the decision, what are some things that you can do to ensure that that continues? Here's one thing that I believe it worked for me, and I believe it'll work for you. When you look at your social media, whether you're on Instagram, your YouTube, anything where you're consuming information, you're consuming it, I want you to either unfollow or mute the channels or the pages or the profiles of people, places, and things that put you in that perpetual state of comparison. Those are your pushers. So for an example, like I just read this study recently that it says 89% of people around the world compare themselves to people that are online. So basically, like 9 out of every 10 people are comparing themselves in some type of way to someone that's online, right? I've also read that 59% of that 89% do it every single day. I've also read that 87% of women compare their bodies to other women online, and 65% of men, Lord knows I did that, do the same thing. What am I saying? You cannot compare yourself to someone that you don't see. You can't compare yourself to something you don't see. So if you're following a YouTube channel, if you're following someone on Instagram, if you're following a podcast and they're reminding you of something, if they're making you feel the lack that's in your life, whether that's true or not, you either need to unfollow or mute it for 90 days. Like, cut it off. And it's going to be uncomfortable and it's going to feel weird because what you're going to see is that you've been depending on these pushers for an extended period of time. So it's just like when you're going to rehab, it's going to be awkward that you're not drinking alcohol for a while because it's been your new normal for an extended period of time. But we have to retrain your brain to focus on the things that's going to remind you of the abundance that's in your life and not the lack. Just imagine how much more you can get done, how much more positive energy you would have if you would stop focusing on what you don't and you're grateful for what you do. Just imagine if you focused on the good that's happening in your relationship and you're not focused so much on the things that aren't ideal for you. Imagine how much work you can get done if you focus on your strengths and not what everyone else has. Think about how much worse Kendrick Lamar's performance would have been from a longevity standpoint if he just gave us the greatest hits. If he just like, well, this is what Beyonce did, this is what this person did, this is what this person did, I'm just gonna do what they did. Nah, he's like, I'm gonna do me. I'm not gonna look left or right, I'm gonna look straight. So the first thing you can do after you make the decision to stop is get rid of all the things that remind you of the lack in your life. If you're wanting to change your diet, if you're wanting to be healthier, it's probably going to help you if you got rid of some of the things that keep you in that space of being unhealthy. Get rid of the cookies, get rid of the snacks. You can't eat something that's not there. You cannot compare yourself to something you cannot see. Okay, so the first thing after you make the decision is to cut off the social media channels, the people that stimulate that feeling of lack in your spirit, in your mind, in your heart. That's number one. Number two, I need you to start creating or putting out or doing something that you've been putting off for a long period of time. And here's why. When you're comparing yourself to someone, essentially what you're saying is they're doing something or they have something that I'm not doing or I don't have. You need to start seeing yourself do the thing that you know that you can do. So for an example, if you want to lose weight, right? I've had podcasts where I talked about my health journey where I've lost, 70 plus pounds in the last year. A huge part of that was I stopped consuming so much information and I started just doing what I knew how to do. Instead of looking at a YouTube video or looking at something to help me, just do what I know that I can do and be consistent at that. If you want to create a podcast, if you want to start a YouTube channel, stop looking at people doing YouTube channels and stop looking at people doing podcasts. Stop looking at Jay Shetty's podcast. Stop looking at Joe Rogan's podcast. Stop looking at Mel Robbins' podcast. Make your first episode. Because what you'll do is that you'll look at their 2 years in, 5 years in, and Joe Rogan, 15 years in at podcasting, and you're going to compare that to you. Don't look at it. Speaking to the microphone, speaking to the phone, create it. You have to see yourself do the thing that you've been putting off. Because once you start to see yourself do it, you're going to start to build the consistency, and the consistency builds the confidence. And when you have the confidence is going to replace the lack that you're feeling. The reason why you're comparing yourself is because you're not confident in what you do, whatever that specific area is. So the more that you see yourself show up and do the thing, your mind is going to start to believe that this is not what we do anymore. This is actually who we are. And this is going to become your identity. And once it becomes your identity and it becomes your character, you're going to have confidence in this to do this 10 out of 10 times. And this is no longer going to be a place of insecurity and lack anymore. It's going to be confidence and abundance now. So, and I promise you, if you do these things, and I'll give you a bonus one. How about this one? Start to surround yourself with people that are already doing the thing or at the place you aspire to be at. How much confidence are you going to get if you're only talking to people that's behind you or alongside of you? You have to start reaching out to people that are doing the thing. They're doing it, right? Because I promise you this, from my personal experience, the people that are doing it in life and they're living the life or doing the thing you aspire to do, they are more than willing to help you and to offer you advice, but they're not going to come to you. You have to go to them. The people that are behind you are always going to come to you because you're ahead of them. But if you're struggling in an area or you're struggling with lack or you're comparing yourself to other people in this specific space, go to the friends, go to the family, reach out to someone that you see is doing it and get underneath their wing. Let them help you. Some of you are trying to do this on your own, and I promise you, you can't. I've tried. It leads to heartache, pain, anxiety, and in my case, prescription medication, sleepless nights, and you're just in a very, very dark space because you're trying to take on the world by yourself. And guess what? You ain't supposed to. Comparing yourself, in scripture it says, I believe it says, comparison is the thief of joy. Whenever you are comparing yourself to someone, you are stealing your joy away. You're stealing it. Matter of fact, I'm going to look this up right now to make sure that that comes from scripture, because I don't want to say that and then it's not, but I believe it is. Let me see. No, it's not scripture. My bad. My bad, all the Christians. My bad. It's from Theodore Roosevelt. Comparison is the thief of joy. But it's kind of scriptural. It's kind of scriptural. It's kind of scriptural, right? But comparison is the thief of joy. So whenever you're comparing yourself to someone else, you're stealing, you're just freely giving your joy away. Stop taking on the world. Stop looking at what everyone else is doing. Make the decision that today is the day where this ends. Start creating and doing the thing. Start the business, start recording, start writing, start dating, start doing the thing in the area that you are the most insecure about. Do this over and over and over again. Get some guidance and mentorship and help in that area from people that are doing it successfully. And watch what happens to your joy and your confidence. I promise you, I guarantee you, you're going to start to live more boldly and start to share more fearlessly. You're going to start creating and being more bold and start sharing more fearlessly. When I watched Kendrick Lamar, and to bring it home, not only was he creating boldly, but he was sharing fearlessly. He was fearless. To do what he did, you have to be fearless. To not care and to be so certain in your ability, you have to be fearless. But you can't do it fearlessly if you're not confident first. And you can't get confidence if you're living a life of comparison. So my hope that this episode has brought you some peace, has been a gut check, right? I hope you kind of feel like a little nudge, like, Ace, back up a little bit. You kind of get me. You kind of, you know what I'm saying? Back up. I hope it's got you uncomfortable. But my hope is that it sparks something on the inside of you for you to make a decision to change for yourself. And I know that there is someone in your life, whether it's a friend, a family member, a significant other, coworker, etc. You guys have had a conversation about this, or you know that this is something that they need. The only thing I'm going to ask of you is that you share it to them. Because you never know what someone may need in the moment. A part of living a life of abundance is to give away the information that helps you. Don't hoard it to yourself. It is your duty that if something helps you, think of someone else that this could be of service for too. I want to thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. I know your time is important. I know your time is valuable. So the fact that you've been on this and listening this entire time, I'm so grateful for you. And if you haven't done so yet, please subscribe, like, rate, and review the podcast, man. It really helps us out more than you know. And listen, stop shooting up the comparison drug. You don't need it. I promise you. If you follow what this episode told you, you're going to live a life way more fearless, way more bold, and with a whole lot more joy. I love you so much. It's your brother Aaron. Be safe, be blessed, and thank you for listening to Done, Not Perfect.